welcome to the Astrology Oddcast. If you are new here, then this is where we talk about the astrology of the week and kind of weave some stories around it. I might teach a little bit because teaching is what I'm here for. I like you to understand why I'm saying what I'm saying. I don't just want to tell you what's going on. And I also like to reflect a little bit. I am here. It is hopefully not too noisy out there. I think potentially I'm going to have to close the window again and boil for the sake of the pod. Be right back. I've been lucky. The building work has stopped just for today, but they've told me, I've finally found out that they are going to be banging around for the next week. So I need to bear that in mind. Okay, we've got a lovely, lovely week. And if you haven't yet rated, reviewed, shared the podcast, please go and do that now. Apparently it really helps. I think it helps. And people are starting to find me organically. I'm getting people messaging me saying, I found your podcast, which is mad. Because I thought I created it for people who already were there. Obviously I was like, oh, I'll do some interviews and I'll get people that way, but I didn't think of organic. I don't know how podcasts grow organically. Must be the hashtags, I guess. Anyway, here we are. Thanks for being here. And this week we have the Grand Trine in water today, Wednesday. Then things get a little bit sparky with the moon in Scorpio squaring Mars and Venus in Leo and then opposing Uranus. So that's a little bit sparky. That's like it must be late Thursday. I've got Thursday here, but the moon's only just entered Scorpio. So it must be, yeah, I think it's quite late Thursday night, which could make for a fun Thursday, but could make for fights. I don't know. Saturday nights for fighting. Thursday nights for fighting. Elton John vibes. There's something like, oh, didn't see that coming. Like two people snogging on Thursday night that you're like, it financially, crypto and the Binance, whatever's going on there. Interesting. Thursdays tend to always be big news days. I always say that. And there's definitely tension. There's definitely tension in the sky Thursday evening, but it could be exciting. Tension doesn't have to be bad. Friday.Neptune stations retrograde. So early night, big hangover. Great night for going to yoga and tuning in and tapping out. And the Cazimi Mercury, it's got this busy week. Mercury exact with the sun is like late Friday night, early Saturday morning, depending where you are in the world. Talking about Mercury, I lose the ability to speak. Monday's a full moon, and Tuesday the moon is conjunct Pluto. Busy week, huh? So let's talk you through it in English. Today we have a grand trine plus Jupiter, making it a kite. Okay, let me explain. Don't turn off, don't tune out because I'm too technical. You're going to learn something here. We have the sun in Cancer, which is a water sign. And if you read magazines when you were young, you would have learned, like I was am a Sag. So I'd see that it said date a Leo or date an Aries because they're both fire signs and fire signs get on well together. It's very sort of basic astrology. If you know your elements. So Aries, like I just said, Leo, Sag are the fire signs. And then we have Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn are the earth signs, Gemini, Aquarius, Libra are the air signs, and Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces are the water signs. Today, we have the sun at 6 degrees of Cancer. We have Saturn at 7 degrees of Pisces. And currently, as I speak, the moon is at 0 Scorpio. The moon takes roughly 2 hours to move 1 degree. So by this evening, tonight, the moon will be around 6, 7 of Scorpio. She moves fast. Saturn will still be at 7 and the sun will still be at 6. The sun will eventually move to 7 in about 12 hours also, actually. So we're going to get a fantastic grand trine, actually, with everything at 7 degrees late tonight in the UK, evening USA. And that is flowing. It's harmonious. Things are easy. It's kind of magic. Bear in mind that it's in water. So water is about receptivity, intuition, going with the flow, just feelings and music and harmony and then just intuitive hits that take us to where we need to be. Then we feed Jupiter in. So you may also remember from your youth or from reading on the internet now that water signs go very well with earth signs. So Jupiter, Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. And Taurus is at 8 degrees of Jupiter. Rewind. Jupiter is at 8 degrees of Taurus. So we've got 3 things at 7, 6, 7, and we've got Jupiter at 8. Now, trines are really harmonious and flowing. So we've got some kind of ease today, hopefully. The Jupiter aspect, the Jupiter coming into play with this trine and turning it into a kite. If you were to look at the aspects on a chart, we'd have a big triangle and then sort of a I can't remember the name of, is it an isosceles triangle with 2 sides the same and 1 longer? We've got 1 equilateral triangle and then 2 sides the same, 1 longer, potentially isosceles, if you remember your year 7 maths. And it turns it into a kite, basically. It looks like a kite. And sextiles, the 60-degree aspect. So we've got Taurus is 60 degrees. I keep saying Taurus, where I mean Jupiter. I think it's because both Jupiter and Taurus are about abundance. So my brain is just merging them. It's like when your mum calls you by your sibling's name because you're just children. It's the same thing. Jupiter and Taurus are about abundance. I keep mixing it up. What I mean is Jupiter. Jupiter is sextile to Saturn and also sextile to the sun. And sextiles are like 2 neighbors calling over the fence to each other saying, come on, let's do something. So the Jupiter is going to spur us into action. So I think that's why I'm launching the Cosmic Club. Like I hadn't planned it. Maybe my subconscious planned it, but it's like, okay, it's time. It's time to get this thing out there. Finally, it's all flowing. It all seems natural. It all seems easy. Let's do it. Let's have the big launch event on Sunday at the full moon. Always launch at a waxing moon. I've said that recently in the podcast. And then obviously I look at my own chart and how all this fits against my own chart, which is reading transits, which if you want to do, you can sign up via my, link in bio, actually, the sales page, the explanation page for Learn to Predict is not yet complete. It is a task for when they were building outside. Maybe I'll do it today. Anyway, if you're interested in that, you can sign up. I'm going to be running the course very, very soon. So that's today. It's kind of cool. I'm here for it. It's a very blessed opportunity. Wednesday. I'll make a reel so that I make sure you get this information before the podcast comes out, which will probably be this evening. But if you listen straight away, then you'll be in the know and hopefully you'll have a lovely evening or a healing evening. Remember my 80-20 rule with Jupiter. Jupiter sometimes brings us something that we didn't want to see, that maybe we've been sitting on our ass and like, oh, everything's fine, can't be bothered, the weather's been nice, and now Jupiter's like, come on, you got to confront this thing, you got to acknowledge it. Thursday then, so the moon will stay in Scorpio, that's tomorrow, the 29th, and moving quite fast, as I've just explained. She will get to opposing Uranus by the evening in the UK. So if I move the chart along, we have, it's 1 a.m. here. It's 1 a.m. So I think that's cool, unless you are on a Thursday. If you're out Thursday night to the wee hours, then expect the unexpected, which could be fun. It really could. We've got the moon at 21, Uranus at 21, Venus at 20, Mars at 23, all fixed, all tense. Crypto could be doing crazy things in the middle of the night. That's always possible. But I think I already alluded to this earlier, but if you are in the UK at midnight, Thursday night, I want to know how it rolled for you. Okay. Friday, Neptune stations retrograde. Now, people keep asking me, I've been teaching Learn to Read Your Birth Chart. What about the outer planets when they're retrograde in your birth chart? Because I think with Mars, Venus, and Mercury retrograde in your own birth chart, there is something to be read. With the outer planets, there is surely something to be read. There's always something to be read, but it's not significant because Neptune's going to be retrograde now until December the 6th. So that's a long time. That's July, August, September, October, November. That's 5 months. It's pretty much half the time it's retrograde. So I wouldn't be worried if you had Neptune retrograde in your birth chart. Could be interesting. Maybe why some people have more addictive personalities than others. Some people struggle with spirituality. Could be things like that. It's worth monitoring, particularly, I guess, if you have that aspect, you might want to learn about it. But Neptune, whenever a planet is stationing, it's like you're in a rowing boat and then you stick the oars in and you want to change, and that there is an upsurge. So there could be an upsurge in emotion. There could be an upswing in emotion. There could be an upswing in the weather, that like the rain and the grayness is set in. As soon as Mercury moved into Cancer in the UK, we lost our wall-to-wall sunshine. And maybe also because Neptune, god of sea, god of the water, is stationing, we have these grayer skies, fog. It's up there, but Neptune is foggy. So perhaps it could make us sleepy on Friday. Perhaps again, the sensitivity is still there with Sun trying to Saturn, which is Thursday, really exact, but it's there now. Sun is trying Saturn right now. We're tapped in, we're tuned in, we're under an intuitive Cancerian sky. We are in Cancer season, and then I think it highlights that. It goes, okay, time to tap into your psychic senses. Saturday, early hours in the US, it's actually Friday night. Sun and Mercury Cazimi. The Sun will be exact with Mercury. And so basically Mercury will be swallowed up by the Sun. But for when they're within 17 degrees of arc, which if you don't read charts, don't worry about it. But let's just say early Saturday morning, there is a power to your thought processes. You have a clarity above and beyond what's normal, and you can focus and you can achieve. And it's not just about focusing and achieving either. It's just being able to be clear, whether that's clearing out your house or making a plan or seeing a friend or communicating something that you need to get off your chest. Bear in mind that we've got Neptune retrograde and all of this water in the sky. It's like we are suddenly clearer in how we feel. But bear in mind that water signs are non-communicative. They are the mute signs in traditional astrology. Therefore, when you get a Mercury Cazimi in watery Cancer, there is something about being able to express what needs to be expressed. And doesn't that feed into a full moon in Capricorn, which we're building up to on Monday? This whole week, if we put the picture together, if we want to make a story, which is what astrology is looking at all these signs and symbols and trying to find meaning, then we are definitely exploring our true heart feelings, like what we really experience, and then articulating it Saturday morning, or perhaps on Monday at the full moon, when it's like, you got to let this go. You can't keep thinking a certain way and expecting different results. So there is a confrontation of the inner real, particularly because we've had Mercury retrograde in Gemini. We've had a lot of thinking. And that's okay. Well, all those thoughts I've had, how am I feeling them? And what are the implications of me thinking this way? Because is this way of thinking getting me anywhere good? Is trying to prove a point or stand my ground on this helping my relationship there? And also, is me backing away from this situation, because we are dealing with the Capricorn full moon, which I'm coming to, and that's Capricorn's way. I'm hurt, goodbye. Is that helping? Is that helping us communicate? Because any awkwardness, any shyness, any like, I really don't know how to tell this person this thing because they're going to be upset or offended if I'm honest, it's creating more problems. If people actually just respect openness and honesty and communication and said with heart. So I think that it's a movement towards that. And Saturn in Pisces, he's recently stationed retrograde also. There's some integration of all that's been learned since Saturn's been in Pisces, which began on March the 7th, and an exploration of the intuitive, the sensitive, and can you hear all the traffic in the banging? I hope you can't. Really annoying. Cars beeping. But let's take it as synchronicity. The car horn beeped when I said that. I've read. Okay, what have I said then? That's enough. I think you get in the picture. I'm not going to labor it. Sunday we have Venus square to Uranus exact. Now we've had Mars square Uranus. How was that then? I want to recap on that because I made a reel on Instagram talking about Mars square Uranus, Mercury at 29 Gemini, and the first quarter moon in Libra. And people were a little bit feisty, pissed off. One friend said she felt like she just had PMT and she wasn't anywhere near PMT, but it was just like That's the vibe. I kind of backed away from it because I was aware of it, but there was a lot of commotion and I did get a lot done. I was super productive. And I think that's how you want it to be, I guess, when you're aware. You're not going to have an accident or lash out or say something you don't mean when you've brought full awareness to it. But sometimes these things will happen. They will slip through the net because maybe they were meant to. But with Venus square to Uranus, yeah, we want our freedom. We want this, we want that. There's something, though, repeating what I said on Thursday, I think, in that you getting together with someone that you just didn't see that coming, or getting back with someone that you didn't see that coming. Now, remember, Venus is in shadow. This is big. Venus is in shadow. Venus will station retrograde on the 22nd of July. I'm doing an event, by the way, if you want to join that. I'm doing it for Ukashana. The link is in my Instagram stories. I'll put it all in the newsletter. And I'm working with Rachel Mattia, who is an expert in values, because Venus is about our values and we want to get clear on what matters to us, what we value. And so with Venus in shadow, hanging out with Mars so tightly, she's feeling amorous, so she wants some romance and action. And then you put in a square to unpredictable, out of the blue, didn't see that coming Uranus. And I think we've got some interesting stories panning out. And I think that when Venus goes retrograde and comes back over all of these degrees again, squaring Uranus again, at some point in August, because that's when it will be, then I think we're going to see. I think people are going to be, there's so much change. You must be seeing that, with people changing jobs, changing houses, changing relationships. 2023 is the love revolution. And when Elton John went on stage the other day, Sunday, and he played Are You Ready for Love? I was like, he introed it. He said something before, and I was like, yes, this is so 2023. This is so right now. And you could see Venus, it kept panning out on the Glastonbury screen. It kept panning. I could see the quarter moon and I could see Venus. I was like, this is wild. And I do think with that Mars Venus together in Leo, like I've already said, like this is a summer for performances and music and celebration, particularly when, the Venus Pluto opposition previously, and the full moon in Sag when Beyonce was performing and Elton John was performing. We saw this crowd and stage interaction, but we are seeing performers shine. And are we seeing this for you? How are you embodying that Leo energy? How are you just glamming it up, having a bit more fun with everything? Because the opportunity is there. And it could be flaky. It could be with the Venus Uranus on Sunday. It could be that people are just, you make a plan and then they sack them off. But as a Uranian person, I don't make plans anyway, because I don't want them. Hate them. Because I want my freedom. But then, the other part of me probably likes it sometimes. I do enjoy it when I've done things and seen people, but some of my friends say you're the only person who, like, I never have a coffee date in the diary with, or a lunch date. Of course not. I don't do lunch anyway. It's annoying. Lunch is just, just ruins the day. You can't get into work in the morning, and then you go to lunch, and you stay with people for far too long, and you get back and the day's over. I find it intensely frustrating. Don't do lunch. I could do a late lunch, but otherwise, no. And then we have the full moon. On Monday. So let's talk about that, shall we? Here's what I wrote in cycles. Year in, year out, the Capricorn full moon arrives to expose our insecurities. That was based on last year, but it was conjunct Pluto. Saturn ruled Capricorn highlights our blocks, fears, vulnerabilities. And Saturn in Pisces is teaching the collective about the power of their unconscious projections, encouraging us all to get to grips with the numinous that is and all that is unseen. Okay, let's explain that. Saturn rules Capricorn. Do you hear that? Door slam. I hope you did. Keep it in, Heidi, if you're editing. And that, because I like that. I like these synchronicities. Saturn is a door slamming in your face. He is a block. He is a boundary. He is our restrictions. And Saturn is currently in Pisces. So we are learning about the feeling. I am personally really growing to trust my intuition more and more and more, to go, okay, just to not gaslight myself. I cannot believe what I'm feeling at the minute, particularly over the past 6 months, is how many times in my life I have felt something to be true. Everyone around me has gone, no, you're overthinking. And then I've gone, oh, okay, I'm overthinking because I'm obviously an idiot and you're all right. And then they're all wrong. And I knew. And then I'm so annoyed with myself that I didn't listen to myself. And now I'm just like, I'm just listening to that so much. Saturn in Pisces is really, for me, grounding that just inner knowing and self-reliance and my connection with the numinous that doesn't need other people to back it up because like they don't see what I see. And with Saturn ruling Capricorn, and this being a full moon in Capricorn, this is our first full moon in Capricorn with Saturn in Pisces for 30 years, 29 and a half. I don't know the exact when it was. It will have been July 94, probably. But it could have been 93. You never know because these little, it's not easy, super exact. But anyway, about 30 years, we've not had a full moon in Capricorn with Saturn in Pisces. So the backdrop of reading the full moon involves looking at the Saturn because it's where in our life is this education going on. Saturn teaches us. Saturn is a tough teacher. And it's in this. I felt this to be true. I knew this to be true. I'm trusting my gut. But also where we've gone overboard, where we've been oversensitive, where we've, like I've been saying for this whole podcast, where we've already retreated, where we have abandoned ship instead of connecting. And so if we break down this full moon, then we can see that we have the sun at 11 degrees and the moon at 11 degrees. So the sun in Cancer, moon in Capricorn, Mercury will be at 14. We have Jupiter at 9 degrees of Taurus. So that's a lovely harmonious trine, very supportive. There's abundance there for us. Jupiter's conjunct the North Node at 0 Taurus, which means the South Node's at 0 Capricorn. That's a sordid place. That's pretty sordid. I think there's a lot of buried toxicity, again, because I really work with 0 degrees and 29 degrees as being extreme points. We've also got Pluto at 29 degrees of Capricorn. So 29 is extreme, 0 is extreme, and we've got a square between them. It's 89 degrees apart instead of 90 degrees, but that's 1 degree off. That is a pretty tight square. And so Pluto is square the nodes. And that is really digging into the toxicity. I mean, sorry, the image that is coming to mind, it's not nice. I think I've done this before, but I got the image of squeezing a blackhead. Sorry. I know that some people aren't into that, but it's just like when you get every last bit out. Wait, your face looked clean, but like it's just a tiny little black dot and then you squeeze. There's just that extra what's the word? There's more to get out. If effusive isn't the word, there's more to get out. There's more toxicity. Jupiter in Taurus is helping us. He's a gentle healer. He's supporting us to get all this stuff out. Mercury's conjunct the sun. He's combust. So perhaps it's not that easy to communicate, but we've had the build-up. We had the Mercury Cazimi on Saturday to actually say, look, this is where it's at. But because we've got the Grand Trine and Saturn tethering all that, I do think we're able to say it peacefully and be harmonious and not be nuts, despite Venus square to Uranus, which might make us a little bit feisty. And Mars is now past. He's at 25 at the full moon. But it's still, if I saw a child with this chart, I'd still be like, oh, Venus and Mars square to Uranus. Interesting. Outspoken, colorful, wearing that out there, a big lover of freedom, maybe slightly avoidant. And I think that Venus-Uranus could make us just turn and avoid, as the full moon in Capricorn would. It's like, and maybe that does also mean it's time to leave some stuff behind, some of the overthinking and some of the ways you have believed yourself to be. In as much as like my words are shit. Sorry about this. Mercury's combusting the sky, and the articulate, eloquent version of me is left. It's looking at this chart, and maybe again that's a synchronicity for how this is, though. If I look at the chart, that is how it is. I'm looking at a situation where there's things that I want to say, but I can't say them because I've checked out and I don't want to be hurt and I just would prefer to leave. Whereas actually, if you can just take a deep breath, and maybe that's what we can all do. If you're listening to the pod, it's like, oof, take a moment, then unclench. How clenched are you? Are you on a walk? Are you in your car? Are you getting annoyed with the passers-by? Wherever you are right now, I'm just rolling my shoulders. And I'm just going to take a deep breath and slow down, because I think that is going to really help with feeling instead of talking, avoiding, and doing, which is Capricorn full moon behavior. Each full moon is an opportunity to release. And this one comes with a helping hand who's encouraging you to step into the next level of self-awareness, a confrontation that you can handle, insecurity that you can admit, loss that you can handle, and the truth that previously was too painful to accept. Whatever this full moon brings you, make the most of this opportunity to share, feel held and safe, knowing that the truth sets you free. It's time to grow. That's what I wrote in cycles. I like it. I think I'm going to throw cycles behind me and leave that there. I will read some horoscopes now, because that is the full moon covered. Aries, do you hear that? That beat was for you, if you heard it. Aries, 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 this full moon is in your 10th house. Boom. It's time for you to shine. It's time for you to let go of any insecurity about how successful you could be. You're stepping into your power. We have the moon. It's very wide. It's not conjunct Pluto, but Pluto is in Capricorn. So the Vedic astrologers, if they were reading, they might consider that. Your chart ruler is Mars, and Mars is square to Uranus and with Venus in the 5th house. So you're creative, something's going to come out of the blue. It's pretty exciting time for Aries, I think. This full moon. This is cool. It's cool. Pluto is that you are dealing with powerful people, Pluto, and maybe you're dealing with any glass ceilings or anywhere you've been held back, and maybe it's time for you to take life by the reins. I would say it's letting go, because when Pluto moved into Aquarius, you had a bit of a break. Reflect on how those past few months were, which was March the 23rd until June the 11th. Reflect on that. And how did you feel about that? Because this is your time to come back into the lessons that you've been going through since 2008 and really blast off, like take the lead, but also be aware of anyone bearing down on you, I would say. Taurus, this full moon is in your 9th house. You are having a party. Your chart ruler is also square to Uranus. There's some unpredictability. Maybe you're off abroad. I wouldn't be surprised if you didn't get on a plane, honestly, or at least go on some kind of road trip. There is something about your beliefs about higher education, travel, living abroad, being abroad that need to be challenged. Maybe you need to go. Maybe you've been. Maybe it's time to come home. But there's definitely a question about your relationships with things from people from other cultures, and your beliefs. And this could just simply be your fundamental beliefs, the self-talk, like I've already spoken about for the full moon in Capricorn. Gemini, this is in your 8th, finance, investments, growth, with Mercury, your chart ruler, in the 2nd house anyway, and the sun in your 2nd house. We are talking about money, your self-esteem, your self-worth, how much you value yourself, the voice that you speak to yourself with. Again, I'm going to keep going to that theme because it's a Capricorn full moon, and self-esteem is always an issue with the Capricorn full moon, because Capricorn that we all have in our chart, the bells are chiming, is where we are vulnerable. And it is the opposite of Cancer. Cancer is open and going to hold you. Capricorn is going to retreat and isolate and freeze. And so the full moon in Capricorn is going to open all of that out, and you'll learn something about the abundance that you are already tapped into. Cancer, this is in your 7th house of relationships. So you are looking at your partnership. And with Pluto now back in Capricorn, he left for a few months, he's back, and the full moon kind of close, not really, but nonetheless, I've already mentioned that with Aries. It's just because it looks close when I'm reading the horoscopes, even though it's not going to be that close, in the sky. It just looks close as I'm reading now. There is something about a release, but again, your relationship with yourself. How have you changed the way you value yourself? How have you changed the way you interact within the relationship? Cliches are there for a reason. Change yourself and you'll see the relationship change. Have you done that? What have you let go of in any dynamics, any one-to-one dynamics? How have you transformed since 2008? Leo, this is in your 6th, so your health and your daily routines and your work. Like, what's going on there? What is your work? How are you behaving on a day-to-day? Are you cutting out any sugar habits, any alcohol habits, any vaping, whatever your vice? It's time. It's time to let that go and maybe be exploring your subconscious a little bit more and to see, why is this pattern there? You can unpick it. You can let it go. It's time. And you get that opportunity, of course, every time there's a full moon in Capricorn, but it's time again. Virgo, your chart ruler is conjunct the sun. It's in the 11th house. That's a lovely place to be. You're celebrating, you're out in the world, you're networking, you got loads of friends. The full moon's in your 5th, you're having a party. It's an earth full moon. You're an earth sign. I like this for Virgo. I think this is great. You're celebrating a little bit. Venus is in your 12th house and she's going to go retrograde in your 12th house on the 22nd of July. So then you'll have to pick up some pieces and think about any relationship dynamics that you're done with, or what actually matters to you. That's the broader picture. It's your values. But for now, yeah, having a good time, Virgo, not worrying about anything, letting it go. Libra, this full moon is in your 4th house of home and family. So again, that with Pluto back in your 4th, you're letting go of some of these. You're deciding where you want to be, and letting go of being codependent and overly concerned with other people. Venus, your chart ruler, is square to Uranus. She's going to go retrograde. She's in your 11th house. There's a lot of rethinking going on, Libra. And I think that it could be like that you want to work from home. It doesn't have to be any massive, drastic, huge change, but there is still something in settling into where you are, feeling into it, letting go of any control, like you want everything to be exactly so. Can you just let go and enjoy? You've got Venus and Mars in your 11th house at the moment. Can you just let go of all the things I've spoken about, this full moon, or the self-sabotage and the negative self-talk and the insecurities and the people pleasing, and settle in to where you're supposed to be? And when I say settle into where you're supposed to be, it's not that there's anywhere in particular that you are supposed to be. It's just settle into where you are and trust that you are where you're supposed to be, is a better way of putting it. Scorpio, this full moon and your chart ruler is in the 3rd house. So very, very private sign. Scorpio, it is time for you to open up. Actually, you've got to say you've got to be honest. You've got to be honest. I think that's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. You've got to be honest with yourself. You've got to be honest with other people. Saying it is the only way that this will change and move on. Sag, this full moon is in your 2nd house and your chart ruler Jupiter is in your 6th house of work and daily routines. So I've already mentioned this last week in the horoscopes. It's about your daily routine, and maybe you're overeating, maybe you're undereating, maybe you're on a health kick. The full moon in the 2nd, we're really looking at work here. 2nd house and 6th house. What is your work? How do you earn your money? What are your routines? What are you letting go of? Have you been making things difficult? Are you open to the abundance of the North Node and Jupiter in Taurus together in your 6th house? i.e., are you open to things improving? Or are you committed to making things difficult? This full moon is all about how open we are. Capricorn, this full moon is in your 1st house. It's your identity, and Pluto's back in your sign. He was there for 3 months and now he's back, and this is the last full moon in Capricorn, with Pluto also in Capricorn in your lifetime. You have transformed like nobody's business at some point since 2008. Your life has completely changed. And now there's a time of integration and like feeling into it. Saturn's in Pisces, it's in your third house. You are a spiritual being. You are the sea goat. You're not just a goat, you're the sea goat. So how are you feeling? It's Cancer season. How are you feeling? Are you more secure in yourself to express? Aquarius, this full moon is in your 12th house. Your ruler Uranus is in the 4th, and he is making some fun party squares to Venus and from Mars. But you're here for change, perhaps. But there could be a little rug pull going on, some change in the way you live day to day, and you've got to explore your psychology. And it's not a very Aquarian vibe. And all of this, because Aquarius is ruled by Saturn. It's Saturn and Capricorn are not going to be comfortable with the themes of this full moon, because the moon is about emotions, and Aquarius and Capricorn are very emotional, but tend to prefer to not discuss. Because they're ruled by Saturn, so they prefer to just contain. But maybe this is an opportunity to open up, maybe with a therapist, maybe with a tarot reader or an astrologer, or somebody who's going to help you see and discuss any heaviness that you've been avoiding. And then last but not least, Pisces. This full moon is in your 11th, which is great. The 11th is your party, your friends, your network. Your ruler Neptune is in your first house. You're in full flow spiritual creative mode. And the sun is in your 5th. You're having a great time. You're expressing yourself with more confidence. And you have been learning things with Saturn in Pisces. Now that Saturn's retrograde, Saturn in your sign isn't overly easy, nor is Neptune necessarily. But now that we have this full moon, it is a time to go, I'm going to let some of this stuff go. I'm not going to dwell on this anymore. It's time to just flow, because Pisces is good at letting things go, very good at letting things go. So let it go. Enjoy yourself. Okay, everyone, that was this week's Oddcast. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed it and it is useful, and that last week's also was useful with your horoscopes. Do let me know which bits you like, which bits you are buzzing with. I'm starving, hungry. I think that's why my words have gone. But the thing is, if you eat before the podcast, I get indigestion. So I didn't do that, but now I'm like lightheaded. I'm so hungry. So I'm going to go and eat. Please do like, share, all the rest of it if you enjoyed it. And if you are interested in learning with me and all those things, you can find the links on my website or in my bio. But do subscribe to the newsletter, because that's the easiest thing to make sure you always know what's going on. This was the Astrology Oddcast with me for the week, Francesca Oddi, for the week commencing the 28th of June. And we have explored, and I hope you find the time to explore what the spiciness is, that those fixed squares, and use that as fuel to be honest with yourself and others, and let go at the full moon, because that's what full moons are for. See you next time.